Steve here with Table Rock Tea Company. I am standing here in the middle of Legacy Field and I am putting on this quarter's fertilizer. The fertilizer that we use is pretty low key. It's more or less a 10-10-10 with micronutrients. Different variations of it. It's not really a huge deal. We don't like to go super high on the nitrogen here, even though tea does take a lot of nitrogen because you're always stripping the leaves. And they need to replace those, but in general for maintenance, and it's mostly for the first 3 years until those roots really start to go deep and get their own nutrients, that you do need to do some top dressing of the field. So that's what I'm out here doing. You can see behind me big gator full of fertilizer. But what I wanted to show in this video is weed management or lack thereof. Now we're actually about to go through this field and do some weed control. Basically what we'll do is pull out any weeds in the rows and then we'll mow or weed whack in between. But what I want to show you is right behind me here, and hopefully you can see this. Okay, so looks like a big field of weeds, but if you look closer you can see the rows. So there's a row of tea going that way, a row of tea going that way, and I'll kind of focus down one row here, and you can see the green, the dark green tea plants sticking their way up. Now, the reason that we kind of do this, a couple of reasons. One, obviously we would love to have this whole field look nice all the time, but practically speaking, it's labor intensive and it's just not worth doing that. But there's some good literature that actually shows that leaving the weeds in the field and knocking them down maybe 2 times or 3 times a year is enough to keep the plants that you want to establish, in this case the tea plants right here, while keeping the weeds from outpacing them. And what that does is the weeds actually provide shade, they provide some nutrients, especially as you weed whack them and let them die, and they also provide moisture, so they hold moisture in an otherwise barren area. Now we're actually getting a pretty cool demonstration right now. You can see all these flowers are moving in the wind. Tea absolutely hates wind, and this is our windiest field. This is a pretty wide open field, and you can see all these flowers swaying in the wind, and so tea doesn't like that, and the weeds actually add a little bit of ground protection from the wind as well. So yeah, so weeds aren't all that terrible, especially when you're in this for the long game. So just kind of keep that in mind. Of course, everything wants to be, everybody wants things to look pristine all the time, but in about 2 or 3, well, 4 or 5 years, when the tea plants get to full maturity, there aren't going to be any weeds in here anyway, because this is going to be one solid mass of tea bushes. So there won't be any light for the weeds. So hopefully that all makes sense, and hopefully you learned a little bit of something. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned to see what else is brewing here at Table Rock Tea Company.